Jim Morrison here at the Spectrum Center. We're joined by the legendary voice of the ACC for Raycom Sports. Wrapping it up this week, Tim Brando. Tim, first of all, how long has it been with you and Raycom Sports?
Well, that's an interesting question, because depending upon who you talk to in payroll, they might have a different answer. But let me put it to you this way. In 1983, I started getting phone calls from Jimmy Rayburn, who at the time was with a company called Sports Productions Incorporated out of Dallas, Texas, which morphed into Lorimore Sports, which morphed into Lincoln Financial Sports, and then later folded into Raycom Sports. At the very same time I was getting calls from Jimmy, I was getting calls from Don McGuire at Raycom, but not to do ACC games, to do Southwest Conference games, Big 8 games, and Metro Conference games, where Virginia Tech was with Louisville way back in the day when Del Curry was playing. My first experience with ACC Jefferson Pilot games came while I was actually working for ESPN, which I got that job in 1985. And without the video coming from the Holly Farm Saturday Game of the Week, with Marty Brenneman and Dan Bonner doing the game, Dickie V and Timmy B would have not had any video to utilize on ESPN. So I was associated from the beginning, without the tapes of working for both Raycom and Jefferson Pilot, albeit in different conferences than the ACC. I wouldn't have gotten my first break at ESPN. And my first break was January 5th, 1985, Duke, Virginia, in Charlottesville with Dick Vitale. And from that game forward, the rest is history. Everything that happened positively for my career happened from that date moving forward, and that date might never have happened had it not been for both Raycom and Jefferson Pilot, who would later, of course, merge and did merge for the ACC. From a business standpoint, it was Raycom's distribution and Raycom's selling. It was Jefferson Pilot's production, and that's a unique marriage that was not so typical even then, and certainly atypical now.
You know, I just got to share personal. Back in '85, I was a high school kid deciding what I wanted to do in Brewster, New York, and I decided, you know what, I'm going to go to Syracuse and I'm going to try to do this broadcasting thing, watching you guys do what you do. You had so much fun. This ACC conference is got so much history, so much tradition throughout the years. What are some of your fondest memories, some of the greatest players?
Oh, so many. I mean, I'll dial it back all the way to that period, 85. You know, I did the ACC tournament that year for the first time. Georgia Tech won it in the Omni. Duke played Georgia Tech in the semifinals. And for me to get the call first round, quarterfinal, and semifinal games was so magnificent. I didn't think a player could have the range of Mark Price back then. And, you know, the three-point shot had only been used in the ACC beginning in 1983 when NC State made its run, and I was in the same building where they had won 2 years earlier on their way to the national championship at the Omni. So that was a real thrill. Dalrymple and Sally and Yvonne Joseph and obviously Price with that backcourt with Dalrymple was just, you know, amazing. And then in 1987. I was still working the games for ESPN, but again, using the video from, it was just the reverse of what I'm doing here. I'm working for Raycom, and ESPN is still doing it nationally. We just flipped the script. But in '87, we had back-to-back double overtime games in Landover. Virginia and North Carolina went double OT in an incredible game. And it was one of Dean's really, really good teams. They would later lose to NC State in the championship game, because Muggsy Bogues took NC State to double overtime in the next game. So back-to-back double OTs. Vitale was giving me cauliflower ear. He was screaming, "Oh, baby, unbelievable!" I was like, for God's sakes, Dick, I mean, how many more times can you say unbelievable? You know, but that was an incredible day for me, and that was, 32 years ago, and at a time in my career when I just started doing College Game Day. We had just started that on ESPN. It was a really breakthrough time, a golden era really of college basketball, and specifically in the ACC. And for me to be on the cutting edge of that was just magnificent timing. I'm forever privileged to have been in that position. And then fast forward to recent tournaments and getting to do the finals when Virginia won and got that monkey off their back, won an ACC title. And Duke and North Carolina, that semifinal game that we did 2 years ago, Jaminski and I, that was like a bonus. Normally the Duke-Carolina game you only get once a year. Our team got it twice. We're sitting in a situation where we could have another one on Friday night this week if all falls according to form, and that would be another great memory for Wes's crew because that's their side of the bracket. But you can't be involved in the ACC tournament and not have unbelievable memories, and mine are go through the 80s, the 90s, and now into, it's been 4 decades of great college basketball for me to be a part of.
Was the Leitner-Hurley back-to-back national championship, was that the greatest ACC team that you've seen come through during your era?
Well, college basketball at that time was in a better place because even the players that left early were there for 3 years. So we had an identity with every player that was on the floor. And there was no such thing as, oh, well, we'd have to be concerned about this guy's future at the next level. That conversation never came up. These kids were on the floor. They were human floor burns. Bobby Hurley, Christian Leitner, Grant Hill, all these guys, it was all out or nothing back in those days. And not just for those players on those teams, but even the great players at other places. But the tournaments were always important. The thing that always separated, to me, the ACC tournament from the other conference tournaments was that this league's foundation was about the tournament. Going all the way back to Everett Case and the history at NC State with Sloan, Dean, Lefty, all of it, okay? And so the SEC went away from the tournament, brought it back. The Big Ten didn't have a tournament. They finally decided to get on board. The Big East is the only conference tournament that can rival the ACC because of what Dave Gavitt did to merchandise that league into that city, and he's turned that conference tournament into quite a gem as well. But this baby is the granddaddy of them all. And again, it goes back to not just the great players, but how much it meant to the people, the fans, as well as the players.
All right, last one. As you call the championship game on Saturday night, what are your emotions going to be?
You know what? I'm going to live in the moment and feel privileged to do it again. This will be my 3rd consecutive championship game to call. I have been a part of the ACC, as I said, going all the way back to '85. And, in our profession, you never say never. And the one thing that never changes is change. So I'll never say that this is the last ACC tournament I'll ever call. But if it happens to be, I'm going to suck every amount of joy out of it I possibly can.
Tim Brando, it was an honor to visit with you here today. Best of luck. Enjoy this last tournament as Raycom Sports. It was a pleasure listening to you throughout the years.
Thank you. I'm going to try to hold on to my mojo throughout the entire week.
All right, that was the legendary Tim Brando joining us here on the Carolina Sports Link as we get you set for the 2019 ACC tournament.